Fired up. Okay, we are back here with our pre-race interviews. The second fastest man in Western States history, returning second place finisher also, Rod Farvard. Welcome to the studio, buddy.
Thanks, Dylan. Great to be here. The HOKA coffee bar.
Yeah. The highest placing returning finisher. Does it feel like you have a bit of a target on your back this year?
Not really. I feel like other people have put themselves in the limelight, and I'm all for it.
Say more. What do you mean? No, I mean, because your race last year, we will all remember, it was one of the Western States races in history. You and Jim Walmsley doing battle all the way to the closing miles. You getting then pushed from behind by Hayden Hawks, both collapsing on the track together. For those of us who were there in person, it was incredibly powerful sporting moment for me. It must, in some way, coming into this with that experience, shape the way you're approaching this year's race.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, last year showed me what I'm capable of. So, I don't mean this necessarily in a bad way or anything, but like sometimes I like to look at things black and white, and I know it doesn't always play out this way, and there's a million variables. But if I did that last year, why shouldn't I be able to do better this year? Like, I've run 5,000 more miles. I've trained better. If I ran 14:24 last year, and if I could kick like that at the finish, I'm telling myself that I have to run faster than that.
Yeah. So speaking of this black and white mindset, it reminds me when we chatted after your second place finish last year, and I had read in your blog and prompted you with a question about how you had written something to the effect of going out and like having a solid race and finishing somewhere in the top 10 wasn't good enough. Like, it was either I'm going to have a historic day or be outside the top 10 or DNF. What kind of, is there a black and white mindset this year?
Yeah. Yeah. The mindset this year is win or DNF. So.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, sticking with last year for a second, I'd love to just ask you to share what memories are really burned in your mind from last year. From my perspective, you and Jim sort of on Cal Street, the mystery of what was happening at the river, that amazing video that Chris Brown got of you guys climbing up to Green Gate. Like, is when you are thinking about last year's race, like what are the moments on the trail that are burned in your memory?
The number one moment is the moment I lost the race. And that was halfway between Green Gate and Auburn Lakes Trail when, I thought I had a sizable lead on Jim because he sat at Green Gate and I ran through. And we were moving well. Like, we were moving very well. I was running just as fast as I was 20 miles ago. And Jim came out of nowhere and absolutely signposted me up those switchbacks to Auburn Lakes trails. And I had absolutely no response. And like, I don't remember how I felt in the moment. I just remember that moment. And all I want to do is, if something like that happens again, I don't care how I'm feeling. I just want to close my eyes and go and see what happens. And if I blow up a mile later, or if I can't make the move, at least I tried. I don't feel like I tried last year out of being afraid, or like maybe even a little bit of imposter syndrome and being like, you don't deserve to win this race yet. And this is Jim's race to win, and you did enough. And I don't want to give myself that cop out anymore. Yeah. Like, I want to tell myself that it's my fifth try at Western States. I think if the chips play in my favor, I deserve to win now.
Yeah. Okay. Sticking on this, I was talking to Tim yesterday about how important it is for athletes to develop the skill of winning. And I was talking to the single track guys about this today too, when we were talking about me making the comment of this specific moment of, I remember you telling me this on the podcast too, of like, I wish I would have just hung with him for 20, 30 seconds, because maybe he would have felt like I'm not off the back and he would have eased off himself. And then it's still a cat and mouse game at that point. Having been in that situation, and seeing that up front, the 4-time champion run away from you, does it feel like now you have a better understanding of what it takes to win? In other words, that, again, coming back to this theme of learning how to win as an athlete, like, is that a moment that maybe taught you what it looks like to run away and win the race?
I think so. I think I learned a lot from Jim in general that day, and I feel like I continue to. But the thing that like burns in my brain the most about all that was his composure through everything. And I hear about things like in retrospect now where he wasn't a little composed sometimes, but he never let it show. And he always seemed like he had control when we were together, or when he'd make a move, or when I'd make a move. And I don't know. I think he has, he's won enough to like know what it takes now. And I think he just has this self-belief that Western States is his race. And if I'm running away from him, he knows that something, like, he's not doing something right and he should be in front of me, because he has this like unwavering self-belief that he was going to win that day. And I think anyone who is going to win a race at this stage, at the UTMB stage, whatever, has to fully believe that they are the champion. No one can beat them. And to be honest, I don't know if I feel that way. Yeah. And hearing about the story, it's been 360 days of people talking about Western States and who's lining up at this race.
Sorry about that.
Yeah. And I still feel imposter syndrome, like hearing the start list, So yeah. I don't know. Hopefully, like deep in my core, when it comes down to it, I'm going to be like, no, this is my day. And my name belongs with all these other people who are being talked about. But yeah.
Thank you for entertaining me. Before we move off of last year, I just sort of mentioned this to you, and you don't have to go into details, but last year you were racing with like a little bit of an internal anger and fire, and I ran together for a bit at the training camp before you dropped the ever-living bleep out of me. And
not intentional.
But I sort of posed the question there of like, do you oftentimes when people are going through stressful moments, it is a detriment to performance, and you somehow channeled it into this career-defining achievement. And I don't think you're in like an angry place right now. So I guess the question is like, how do you channel that type of thing? Or do you feel like not coming in with that chip on your shoulder maybe a little bit more impacts the psychology coming into the race?
Man, I hope not. I think everyone deserves to be happy and should be happy. We were joking, like, I need to hire someone this week to emotionally destroy me to get me into a similar place. But no, I did not feel good coming into the race last year. And I went through a breakup, 2 weeks before the race, and it was a very stressful time. I was not thinking about the race, and until like the morning of the race. And I don't know what happened. Like, I think there is a component of not caring what happens in the race because I have bigger fish to fry when this race is over. And like this race doesn't matter compared to a lot of things in life. But, I don't think it was a positive place to be in. Yeah. So I don't know. And at the end of the day, like when I look back at the race, I didn't feel angry during it. Like I wasn't running with anger. I was actually running with a lot of love, and I felt really loved on the day. And people were so excited for me to see what I was doing out there. And I was feeding off those cheers and like the Rod, what are you doing? Like that kind of like emotion that was coming from people. Even Diane Fitzpatrick, the president of Western States at Forest Hill, was like surprised to see me. Even Mike McManus, before I was with HOKA, was like, go, like Rod, go. Yeah. And all of that is what kept me going. I wasn't thinking about how sad I was.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm coming in with more love this year, and yeah, So
Channel
I don't know.
the love.
Let's hope hope that's a good thing.
Yes.
Not to say I don't believe in being angry. So I don't know. Maybe I'll get like mad at my friends. Maybe I'll get mad at Killian for whatever reason.
Feel free to direct your ire at me if it means you win the race. I'll happily be the on the losing end of that. All right. So moving ahead to this year, you started your season with a big course record at 9 trails down there in Santa Barbara. Not a big race, but you took the course record from Jim Walmsley. And of course, I know you have a history with the area and probably were using that as an early season, just test piece to see where your fitness was. Probably came out of that feeling pretty confident.
Yeah, definitely. I surprised myself there.
Tell us a bit about
it. Just me and 9 trails. I mean, I went to college in Santa Barbara, Iowa State. I grew up there, but those trails are where I, got into trail running, where I started doing it seriously. And in 2019, a bunch of the HOKA guys came out for a really stacked year, and I feel like I used that race initially as a test piece for, if I'm actually any good at the sport. Yeah. And I landed in 4th at that race, but I think like 30 minutes behind Jim, who won. So I don't know. It's still a HOKA race. And like, I was thinking about my year this year and what made sense. I didn't really want to race long when I was initially thinking about the year. So I was looking at some 50Ks I could do, and 9 trails seemed interesting. And the year Jim set the course record at States, he set the course record there. So clearly like some sort of fitness indication. So it felt fun to like give it a go. And
shows you how much you've improved in those 5-6 years too.
Definitely. Yeah. I think I ran 35 minutes faster. So over a 50K basically, on pretty steep and technical trails. So yeah. And I don't feel like I was training for that kind of terrain. Like my training this year has been quite a bit different. So I was curious to see how like the climbing legs would be after a winter of a lot of like treadmill and a lot of just kind of like mid zone 2 long runs. So I definitely shocked myself, and I it was a good start to the season, but yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, let's come back and talk about training in a minute. But last time we saw each other was at Canyons, where you ran the 100K, a race you won in 2024. I know you weren't feeling great on the day, dealing with sort of asthma issues, something to that effect. Still finished 9th place. But I guess the question to you is, that being a place where you're the defending champ and the last big dress rehearsal before Western States, how do you emerge from that in a way that doesn't impact confidence, or did you have to kind of go back to the drawing board after Canyons this year?
Great question, and like totally fair. And I think it took a hit to my confidence for sure. Like I was feeling incredible coming off 9 trails, and the next month I just felt like shit, and I don't really know why. And a lot of like testing and just kind of deductive reasoning led to probably some allergies. But it wasn't like going away, so whatever it is, it's bothering me. And I was definitely worried coming out of it. But I tried to look at the silver linings in it, and I can't stress enough how bad I felt, and I was still able to finish 9th. So like the mindset is still there to just race, and push through stuff when you're feeling bad. So that's always a plus. And at the end of the day too, like I think it put a lot of attention off of me, and I was feeling a lot of pressure and attention coming into Western States this year. So yeah, I think it sucks. It always sucks having a bad race. It always sucks, feeling like you're feeling amazing and then getting knocked down. But I think like for just level setting me and getting me back to work and like getting me motivated and making me understand that there's work to do, I think it was a huge positive.
Awesome.
And it's a blip in the grand scheme of a career. And you look at everyone's career and there's always blips. So like, it's hard to like tell that to yourself, especially because we race so infrequently. It feels like every race should matter a lot.
It's more consequential.
Yep. but I'm not letting it get to me, and I'm feeling good. I came back to training camp just to see if like the allergies were still here in Auburn, and they weren't. So I was happy.
The front row seat to your lack of allergies at the training camp. Still mad at you for that. Speaking of channeling anger, Rod, I'm mad at you for putting the hurting on me. You just mentioned that it seems like training was a little bit different from last year. Talk about how you approach things, because I think the temptation would be, I know you and your coach have had a long-term working relationship. There could be the temptation of like, shit, last year was crazy good, let's copy paste. Mm-hmm. To what extent did it look similar versus different to 2024?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the biggest difference, Canyons also made me want to go all in on running. So I did end up quitting my job, my corporate job. So I am taking this a little more seriously now, and using that extra time for additional workouts during the day, and just better recovery and preparing for sessions better. But all of that aside, I mean, the big thing we did different this year is actually like pinpoint what we're trying to develop. Like I feel ultra running is so interesting training wise, because you can train every kind of system in the spectrum and think you're doing things well for running. Like you could just train climbing, you could train your VO2 max, you could train your lactate threshold. You could just do long, slow, easy runs. But I feel like you're throwing a lot of like just spaghetti at the wall at that point. And there's no right answer here. But what we wanted to try different this year is just like understand where I'm running these races the most. And my coach has so much data. He has almost a decade's worth of data on me at this point. So we know how hard I'm running these races.
Yeah.
And what we're seeing is that I'm running these races in between my aerobic threshold and my lactate threshold, not under my aerobic threshold, not at my lactate threshold. There's like moments where I get above my LT2, but like primarily we're training in between LT1 and LT2. So all of our workouts have been in this kind of like gray area zone.
Yeah.
So we're doing like an hour basically of intervals at different, grades and different like time sets just to like get work in at this zone between LT1 and LT2. So I don't feel like super cooked for my workout.
So for the listeners, you're identifying the intensity at which you're racing, and then you're just hammering that intensity.
Exactly. Yeah. And then like, we're not doing super long runs. We're doing 4-hour long runs, but we're doing them at, like upper zone 2. So they're actually like, it's actually like a little bit of quality in there. And it's not just like kind of getting up for 5 hours on Saturday, getting up for 5 hours on Sunday, like we kind of used to do. We're just trying to be a lot more intentional with the time and the impact and the training load of things, and just trying to dial in this one zone. So how I feel as a runner right now, I don't feel fast. Like I really don't feel fast, but like I feel like I can't run slow either. Like all my runs are like 7:30 pace, 7:30 pace, whatever it is. And I feel really efficient there. So like in that sense this year, that's how I feel this year. I felt like a little faster and more like pop last year, but I just feel extremely just, one gear at a pretty hard effort.
It's really interesting. And it reminds me of when we talked last year and you described how you were doing loops where you would set your car up as sort of like a fake aid station. So you could have the practice of the dress rehearsal of an aid station transition. You were also weighing yourself before and after runs to measure how much fluid you were losing. And I think it fits into this macro trend of people experimenting and finding new ways to learn about their bodies in service of performance. Are there any other new things that you've added aside from what you've just described that sort of fit into this? Because as somebody who talks about the sport professionally, like not only is it interesting, but it's more and more important if you want to compete at a race like this to do those little things that in some way are like improving you by, the one percenters as they call them.
Yeah. We still do all that other stuff with nutrition in our long runs too. The other big piece that you'll see almost everyone doing now is just the heat training. Yeah. So we kind of went all in with that too. We did like a really heavy block in the winter, and less to get heat adapted, but more to just see the impact on hemoglobin mass and like actually see if I'm a responder to heat training, because not everyone is. But we did a VO2 test before this block, then we did a 5-week heat block with 5 sessions a week. Each session about 45 to 50 minutes at like a certain core temperature. And then we took VO2 afterwards, took a test, and we saw like a 10 to 11% increase in my VO2 over 5 weeks.
Wow.
So we were using that early in the year because we weren't able, and this is like getting really into the weeds, but my coach believes we're not actually able to, and he's right, like we're not actually able to train VO2 max at high altitude because you're not able to get like that intensity up. So when we're at altitude,
which is why track athletes or triathletes or whatever will come, even if they're living at altitude, will come down in altitude to train.
Exactly. And you'll actually see like pro cycling teams do like 3 weeks at altitude, 3 weeks at sea level, where they're just hitting it super hard. And then when they go back to altitude, it's just volume.
Wow.
So that's kind of like what we were trying to think about at first. I was actually planning to quit my job early so we could do that all year, but I dragged my feet on it, and we weren't able to cycle at that frequency. But we were doing just the heat stuff to help increase hemoglobin mass at altitude while still keeping the intensity at like a zone that I could actually hit while living at 8,000, 9,000 feet.
So interesting, man.
Yeah.
I learn something new from you every time we talk.
So
cool.
I mean, I learned something new from my coach every week. So
awesome.
Yeah, he's in it.
All right. Well, so winding down, we've already sort of talked about this, but I'd love to have you just kind of wrestle with this a little bit more of like, you set such a high standard last year. Like, how do you come into this race celebrating what you've already achieved here while being open to whatever new experience you have in 2025? Because it feels like it would be really hard, frankly.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything to celebrate. Like what happened in 2024 happened.
Dude, you're the second fastest guy in Western States history.
I mean, but that could not be the case this year.
Yeah.
You know, I could all of a sudden be the 10th fastest guy in history.
Yeah.
So the only way to keep being the second fastest guy in history is to keep up with the time.
Is to be the first fastest guy.
Yeah, exactly. No, but seriously, like it feels different being here. Like I don't know. I feel like every year I feel like I belong in the elite field a little bit more. Like this is my 5th year
in a row.
And I started with the DNF, then got like 60th place, then 11th, then 2nd. But you know, up until last year, I didn't like. I still didn't really know my place in the sport and everything. And it's funny that one race can change that. Like like I said, I don't necessarily feel faster, you know, and it's weird being labeled by like one day that you had, because then like you have another day, like I had at Canyons, and then it's like, who am I again, you know, and did I deserve that one result? And I don't know, man. I what I think is like more important than what happens at the finish is like how you approach the race and how you have an impact on the race. Like if I kind of slowly, if I'm not up there battling and like pushing everyone else to a really fast time or a course record or something, and I'm someone that just sneaks into the field, like I think I'd rather be like pushing everyone else to 14 hours and then like we said, blowing up because like I don't know, I helped do something other than just kind of sneak my way in and let everyone else do the work. So maybe I just gave away. It's not like a tactic or anything, but I want to be up there pushing it with everyone and seeing what happens. And when I think about my place now, I guess in the sport, I want my place to be at the front of every race and helping drive the sport forward. So.
What a perfect place then. Rod Farvard, good luck. Your 5th Western States. I hope it's your best, buddy.
Me too.